Hello and welcome. I'm often asked when I tell people about the very fast grief resolution work that I do, they often ask me, well, how does it work? So I put together this little presentation and it's going to provide you an overview of the grief resolution that I do with clients. So here I'm going to explain who, what, when, where, why, how, and what if. So a person can, when they fully understand it, make a decision if this is something they're interested in. The why. Why would we even do this? And the big answer is to resolve unnecessary suffering. And what are we doing? What we're doing is resolving the pain and suffering of grief and replacing it with a much more enriched alternative. And it's important to understand so we can recognize the two types of suffering. There's necessary suffering and unnecessary suffering. What is unnecessary suffering? Suffering that exists for which there's a method to resolve it. If there's a method, and you have suffering and there's a method, it becomes unnecessary. What is necessary suffering? Suffering for which there is no method to resolve it. If you're suffering in pain or whatever you want to call it, and there's nothing anybody can do, then it's necessary to suffer. So those are two important distinctions, necessary and unnecessary. There are also two types of pain. There's meaningless pain and meaningful pain. And for most humans, meaningless emotional pain quickly becomes intolerable, which means you start trying to do something to make it go away, to resolve it. When a person has meaningless pain, it will often progress if you use a method that does not resolve it. What's going to happen is most methods that do not actually make it looks. So the progression of unresolved meaningless pain is as follows, and let's see what it looks like. First, you have pain. Something causes pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and that will almost immediately trigger away from motivation. Instead of going towards what you want to alleviate the pain and suffering. So you have the initial pain, and now you're into away from pain motivation. The next step, if the pain becomes intolerable, you now start feeling hurt, and you will also fear anticipating more hurt because you're moving away from what you don't want. The hurt will progress into suffering. And at that point, it often can transfer to be expressed as anger. I'm angry because I have this pain and it hurts and I'm suffering and nothing I'm trying is working. And then if it progresses, which it often does, it multiple levels of dissociation. A person keeps like moving away from their own self as a way to try to get out of the pain. They move into misery. And at this point, it can be depression because now it seems to be like, I'm going to have this and there's nothing I can do to get rid of it. And I start getting depressed about that. And I'm also trying to repress the anger because the anger is painful. And I want to try to do something. If I can't resolve the anger, I try to push it down and bury it, push it under the rug. Then the misery will progress into agony. I will be in deep agony because nothing I'm doing is working. I was hurt. Now I have suffering. Now I have misery. Now I have agony and a despair, which is even deeper than depression, a despair. It's like a giving up. Nothing is going to do is going to work. This is going to go on forever. And at that point, what a person will try to do is numb themselves. Food, alcohol, drugs, legal drugs, illegal drugs. Um, I just don't want to feel anymore. So it's the absence of feeling. The bad part about that is you no longer feel happiness, joy, optimism, well being, because now you just don't feel anything. We can take a person out of this pain by accessing their deeper unconscious resources, and this gives the person an enriched set of possibilities to make new choices. They can make better choices when they have access to resources. And what are resources those? The person's resources, not somebody else. The person does have the resources they've lost sight of. So how does this work? How does it move instead of moving down from pain all the way to suffering, all the way down to agony and numb, we'll look at where and when do you have that pain. And then we'll look at behaviors. What are the behaviors that you're actually capable of? The behaviors of what I do. Then we access a person's skills and abilities, the capabilities. And then we start looking at a person's values and beliefs. This is where a person's mission is. So the beliefs that they can change, the beliefs that it's valuable to change, the belief that I want to feel good instead of feeling bad is capable. Then you move up to a higher logical level into a person's identity. When you change identity, you change values, beliefs, capabilities, behaviors, and environment. So a lot of the processes I use work at the level of identity and spirit. When you change a person's spiritual connection with themselves and others and their creator, that will change identity and enhances their identity and enriches and aligns values and beliefs they're capable of, the behaviors, and then the experience of their environment will change, even if nothing externally changed. So identity is where your vision is. Your identity is who am I, and the vision you have for your life. Moving on up to the highest logical level, spirit, and there's a lot of spiritual methods that work extremely well when done effectively. Spirit is who else am I connected with? What are all of the people I'm connected with, and what is my purpose in life? When that is enriched, identities, values, belief, capabilities, behaviors, environment, all are much more in alignment. And as you increase in alignment, you will give the things in your life much more positive meaning. You have the ability to have a greater connection with yourself, a greater level of authenticity, and a greater experience of well-being. And all of these lie within the person, not within the coach, not within the therapist, not within the friend. We do that to access all of these resources that are in the person. Another way to understand what we're doing is we're changing the representations that are creating the meaningless pain into representations that access unconscious resources, resolve the grief representation, and create a new enriched meaning. This is what all effective grief resolution work does, whether the person doing it knows what they're doing or not. This is what's actually happening, independent of whatever method they're using. Sometimes the people can think, well, when this happens, I have to feel this way. The outside world, the triggers cause me to respond a certain way. So I'm just basically a stimulus response organism. This happens and I have to feel that way. Great quote by Viktor Frankl, who's actually lived this very well. He was in a German concentration camp, lived through it, wrote a book on it. Mankind's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. Here's where you move into the power of choice, that you respond in an effective way, regardless of what the trigger is. It is a striving in one's life to find a meaning that is the primary, most powerful, motivating, and driving force in humans. Viktor Frankl. So how do we do this? The how. That all sounds very good, but okay, how do we do it? The how is very interesting. Something that I was trained in neurolinguistic programming to find out how people do this in a process called modeling. They find someone who's really excellent, and instead of trying to find out why they do it, which is what most psychology since Freud on up until recently figured out why. NLP, we find out how. How do we do this? So instead of trying to come up with, out of thin air, a model for resolving grief, what they did, Stephen Conner Andreas, what they did is found people who were already excellent at resolving grief. And then what they did by precisely replicating the mental strategies of the people who were naturally very adept at successfully resolving grief. And then what we do is take that model and guide people who are not so good at resolving grief to replicate the success of those who were already successful. In school, this was called cheating. In life, it's called doing what people who are already getting the results they're doing. They have the results you want. You're going to do what they do because it works. So the difference between this and a theory is a theoretical attempt, an imaginary attempt to explain something. NLP is not, what we do is not a theory. It was already proven to be working by finding people who are already good at doing it and then doing that. The set of change tools I use to perform this comes from NLP and neurolinguistic programming. It's simply a communication model that teaches people how to use their brain more effectively. We find successful strategies used by successful people in whatever, whether it's therapy, athletics, business, sales, jury selection, lots of different applications. We find out the people who are doing very well, what is step by step and very extremely detailed ways. What are they actually doing on the inside in the mind to create those results? And then we teach people how to do what the success people are already doing. A little bit about the model. Right here we have on the right an external experience. Something happens in the world. The way we create our emotional states from that is through the filters we have. All experience is going to be deleted, generalized, and distorted using our attitudes, our values and beliefs, meta programs, decisions, memories, language. We create internal representations of the external world, and that combined with our physiology at any moment creates our state of mind, our mood, whatever you want to call it, our emotions. And out of the state comes our behavior. And then from our behavior, we get the results we experience. Thought in which I proceed will work. A person can have fight or flight, be real stressed out, very unsettled, could be crying, shaking, just extremely out of sorts. And the first thing I do is clear out any fight or flight, clear any shock, clear any trauma. Once this is all done, we're in a position to resolve and release grief. I almost often accomplish that plus more in the first session. Sometimes it takes two, but usually in the first session. Then what makes this process different from other processes, instead of just resolving the grief, we go into much more profound, deeper, very enjoyable, deeper states of being. Using advanced NLP processes like core transformation, we access your core states or states of presence. And the 5 main core states using this method that naturally emerge, and I've never had it not happen with anybody, regardless of how much pain they're in, we access the core states. The first one is being, and this is being fully present in the here and now, rather than being self-conscious of thinking about myself. You're just being you without any judgment or self-consciousness. Second core state is inner peace, which is a deep sense of inner calm, free of worry, anxiety, or preoccupation with the past or future. It's a wonderful place to be in, and everyone has it inside of them. The core state of love. The experience of love as a core state is beyond romantic love, loving, or being loved. It's a complete, full experience of unconditional love. It's just a state of love, not getting or giving. Fourth core state is okayness, and this is a core state that transcends an inner or outer judge. There's no inner critic and there's no inner cheerleader. It's without proving, doing, or having anything. It's a deep level of intrinsic worthiness. And the last one, oneness, sometimes called spiritual connectedness, grace, or oneness with God. Anyone who meditates, does any kind of spiritual discipline, has most likely had at least glimpses of this. So those are the 5 core states. What is significant about the core states? We're now able to move a person way beyond mere acceptance. models of grief resolution go through stages, which is not necessary, and their ultimate goal is to finally get to acceptance. Sometimes it takes months or sometimes years. Well, we go way to acceptance very quickly, and then we go past. So it's in my opinion, it's a very giant advancement for Final Leap Forward. So what do other people say about core transformation? Jack Canfield, the Chicken Choke for the Soul Series, says core transformation is a brilliant process. It quickly takes you to the core of your being. John Bradshaw did tons of stuff on healing shame. Core transformation offers a profound way to touch the depths of our own soulfulness. I had an immediate and deep experience of self-love with it. Michelle Wiener Davis wrote 2 books, Divorce Busting, Fire Your Shrink. Core transformation will help you turn your limitations inside out, enabling you to experience yourself in a way you never dreamed possible. Dan Millman, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Core transformation takes us beyond assumed boundaries into virgin territories of the self, a place of greater courage and love, into the wellspring of authenticity, the core of being. Joseph Chilton Pierce wrote The Magical Child Evolution Zen about core transformation. He says, one of the most important works I've come across in any field. Core transformation should be adopted as the principal therapy, and you could put end coaching by every therapist in the country, understood and practiced by everyone in the helping and legal professions, as well as parents and teachers. I stand in awe at the simplicity, clarity, and directness of a work of such magnitude. Core transformation is simple magic, no degrees required. If your life feels dry and brittle at the edges, if you're struggling towards the health that wholeness brings, Susan Berry World Health Organization. The last one, I'm astounded. Suddenly we have a bridge from psychopathology or plain human problems to enlightenment. There it stands, every beam in place and traffic already passing over it. I know therapists and coaches types will make ready use of it, and I hope religions will embrace the profound implications of this fine new bridge to their territory. Wilson Van Dusen, PhD, The Natural Depth in Man, former chief psychologist at Mendocino State Hospital. So that's about the what. And I had the privilege of personally training in 1996 with Connie Ray Andreas, who developed it. And then more recently, this past spring, I did an advanced core transformation with assisted Tamara Andreas and her son, Mark Andreas. And then this past fall, I've been involved in some more advanced training with core transformation. So who? Moving on to the who. The who is myself, the grief coach, and anyone who wants these results. Where do we do it? My home office in Laplace, and other arrangements can be made. Now with COVID, I'm going to work more on Zoom. First, I would need to meet the person either in their home or my home for the first session. When? On my website, I'll have a schedule, Acuity scheduling, so you can look and see what I have open, and you can schedule a time that works for you. What if? So what if I do all of this and it doesn't work? That's a common question. What if? That holds people back from living the life they really want. Well, what if it doesn't work? Well, what I want to do is make it so that's not a problem. You're not going to lose any money. And within the first session, or at least by the second, you're going to know if this is going to work for you. I've never not had it work, but I hadn't met everybody on the planet, so I can't say for sure. But if it doesn't, if you do not get the results you want, you get a complete refund. My work is 100% guaranteed. I'm not in business to take money from people and not give them what they want. What I want to do is under promise and over deliver. Thank you for watching. This approach to resolving the suffering of grief is the kindest, most gentle and effective and respectful too, I could add, powerful, rapid, and precise approach that I know of. If you find something better, please let me know so I can go learn it. If you have any questions, would like a free discovery session, want to set something up, or just inquire to get more information so you can make an effective decision that's best for you, email me to set up a time, or go to my website, which you probably saw this, so you're already there. I have a tab for setting up schedule, and if there's nothing on that works for you, I can set up something that does work for you.